sound off the coast of Florida at 3:27 a.m. IST in the wee hours. So they've all returned safe and sound, and everybody is elated across the globe. I'd like to thank our guests once again for joining us on the broadcast, of course sharing their perspective on this crucial development. Meanwhile, we shift our focus to some other important news. Now, the Trump administration has fulfilled a long-standing campaign promise of releasing approximately 80,000 pages of previously classified documents related to the 1963 assassination of US President John F. Kennedy. We of course remember, you can see those visuals, it happened in Dallas in Texas on the 22nd November of 1963. These are the moments leading up to the assassination. You can see John F. Kennedy, Jackie O sitting there. That's when the first shot was fired. You can see this is of course a sequence of when Kennedy was hit in the head by that bullet right there. And everyone was panicking. Jackie, of course, eventually she cradled her husband's head, and then due to the panic that set in, she eventually climbed the back of the car. This move now by the Trump administration has been heralded as a step towards maximum transparency by the Director of National Intelligence of the United States of America, Tulsi Gabbard. This is of course reignited one of America's most enduring mysteries. The question still pertains who exactly assassinated Kennedy. Of course, Lee Harvey Oswald was what the CIA had stated as in their revelations, but he was also killed soon after. Now, among the trove of documents, one line has captured significant attention. I quote what is written in the document: a small clique within the CIA was responsible for the assassination, is what in fact has come out in this document. First, of course, I'd like to showcase in fact what exactly is the release that has been put out and this document as well. So, the release is dated 18th of March 2025. It of course is under the office of the Director of National Intelligence. Yes, right there. It states that previously classified President John F. Kennedy assassination collection records are now released. And as Tulsi Gabbard stated, she said that President Trump has ushered in a new era of maximum transparency. He's promised this and a commitment to rebuild the trust of the American people in the intelligence community in particular. Part of that promise was to fully release previously classified records related to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. President Trump's executive order number 14176 stated that the continued retraction and withholding of information from public records pertaining to the assassination of JFK is not consistent with the public interest, in the release of these records is long overdue. Now, upon receiving the President's decision, I beg your pardon, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, immediately sent out a directive across the intelligence community conveying his directive to provide all unredacted records within the President John F. Kennedy assassination records collection to the National Archives and the Record Administration for immediate release. So, of course, now the records will be available to access either online, and this is the particular link that has been attached by Tulsi Gabbard, or in person via hard copy or on analog media formats accessible to people at the National Archives at College Park. Meanwhile, the release consists of approximately 80,000 pages of previously classified records that will be published with no retractions. Additional documents held under court seal of a grand jury secrecy and records subject to section 6103 of the Internal Revenue Code must be unsealed before release. So, there of course, this is what Tulsi Gabbard has had to say, and regarding the revelations in particular. Now, this is what is really interesting. The subject is John Garrett Underhill Jr.'s communication. So, what exactly he said? The day after the assassination, this is from the Ramparts of June 1967, volume 5, number 12, pages 28-29. It contains the following passages that says that the day after the assassination, Gary Underhill left Washington in a hurry. Late in the evening, he showed up at the home of friends in New Jersey, and he was very agitated. He said that a small clique within the CIA was responsible for the assassination, and he was afraid for his life and probably would have to leave the country. Now, less than 6 months later, Underhill was found shot to death in his Washington apartment, and the coroner had ruled it as suicide. J. Garrett Underhill has been an intelligence agent during World War II and was a recognized authority on limited warfare and small arms. He was a researcher and writer on military affairs and was on a first-name basis with many of the top brass in the Pentagon. He was also on intimate terms with a number of high-ranking CIA officials. He was one of the agency's people who performed special assignments. At one time, he had been a friend of Samuel Cummings of Interamco, the arms broker that numbers amongst its customers the CIA and ironically Clean Supporting Goods of Chicago, from whence the mail order Caranco allegedly was purchased by Oswald. Remember, Oswald was also later shot just a few days after Kennedy's assassination. Here's another page from the document. The friends whom Underhill had visited say that he was sober but badly shook. They say he attributed the Kennedy murder to a CIA clique which was carrying on a lucrative racket in gun running, narcotics and other contraband, and manipulating political intrigue to serve its own ends. Kennedy supposedly got wind that something was going on and was killed before he could blow the whistle on it. Although the friends had always known Underhill to be perfectly rational and objective, they at first did not take his account seriously. He is also, some of the friends have said that I think the main reason was that we could not believe that the CIA could contain a corrupt element every bit as ruthless and more efficient as the mafia. Now, the verdict of suicide in Underhill's death is by no means convincing, and his body was found by a writing collaborator, Asher Bynes of the New Republic. He had been shot behind the left ear and an automatic pistol was under his left side. And Bynes had said that it was odd because Underhill was right-handed, and he thinks that the pistol was fitted with a silencer and occupants of the apartment building could not recall hearing a shot. So, everything rather fishy over here. I have with me Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian. Sir, some rather interesting revelations have come out as far as these documents are concerned. The CIA surveillance is one thing. The CIA had tracked Lee Harvey Oswald before the assassination. He was also on their radar due to his activities, including his trip to Mexico City in 1963. He had also visited Cuba. There's a lot of speculation regarding a second shooter. Some witness statements and newly unredacted files have hinted at the possibility of a second shooter. There's, of course, as I read out, the mafia connections. Documents have also suggested ties between Jack Ruby, the man who shot Oswald, and the mafia, hinting at a possible mafia motive. Files have also revealed that the CIA did not fully share Oswald's surveillance details with the FBI, and of course there is Gary Underhill's claim as well. There are some missing and destroyed records. Key files such as the volume 5 of Oswald's Office of Security Files and audio tapes from Mexico City have been labeled as missing, in fact, by them. They've also, the compliance with the JFK Records Act has also faced security. We're being told that the agency resisted certifying under oath that all assassination related records had been disclosed. Of course, the visit to Soviet and Cuban embassies by Oswald and discrepancies in travel records have also, and gaps in this have also been revealed in these documents. Jack Ruby's Havana collection. He had visited Havana in 1963 using a Czech passport, and the CIA was asked to verify this but indicated limited ability to assist. So there's a lot that has come to light. What do you make of these revelations? There's been a lot of talks, a lot of murmurs, over the last few decades at the CIA's hand being a part of John F. Kennedy's assassination. So these statements now coming to light, one of the inside officials itself who was involved with the CIA making such a statement.
Look, I want to point out to the common factor linking JFK assassination, RFK assassination, and Martin Luther King assassination. And that has come out very clearly if you look at the files carefully. John F. Kennedy was opposed to what Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex. He was opposed to war. He was opposed to sending American troops to Cuba. He fought and resisted and succeeded in finally ensuring that the military could not send troops to Laos, and he had signed an executive order. This is important. President John F. Kennedy had signed an executive order stating that the U.S. must start withdrawing from South Vietnam, right? And what happened? A short while after that order was signed by him, he was no more. He was succeeded by Lyndon Baines Johnson, his vice president, who immediately completely changed track and who started sending hundreds of thousands of U.S. troops to Vietnam to fight and die, and of course countless more Vietnamese. The Vietnam War was a disaster. J.F. Kennedy was opposed to it. He wrote an order withdrawing American troops. But none of this strategy would have occurred had JFK been alive. But the fact is, what did Johnson do? He followed a policy of supporting the war. And let's be honest, I mean, today you're looking at the Ukraine war. Again, something very similar is going on. Despite the fact in America's interest to stop the war, mysterious forces are still working to keep the war. So please understand, John F. Kennedy did not want war. Robert F. Kennedy did not want war. He was killed off. Martin Luther King was a man of peace. I'm sure you've heard his I Have a Dream speech.
Indeed.
I have a dream in which children, black or white, play together, work together, live together, and eat together. And that is such a noble thought. And Martin Luther King is also assassinated. All three were men of peace. And what happened? They fought war. They fought those who wanted war. And in turn, what happened? They paid with their lives. So please understand, there is a very important reason why John F. Kennedy was killed. And as for Oswald, the fact is CIA knew about him. They knew he was plotting something. They knew possibly he was plotting against the president. And they did nothing. And Jack Ruby was a well-known mafia. At that time, you worked for CIA, you worked for mafia, and in Cuba especially, Cuba was the base of the CIA, the mafia, and several American, United Fruit practically owned Cuba. And that's why the Cuban dictatorship of Batista was so unpopular. And that's why Fidel Castro came to power. So the fact is, Kennedy resisted sending troops to Cuba when the Bay of Pigs invasion CIA ended in failure. And for that he paid his life. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wanted peace. He was against war. His life was ended. Again, Martin Luther King wanted peace. His life was ended. So please understand the common thread of all these deaths and why President Trump has released them, because he is a man also who opposes war. I'm surprised that he made a U-turn on Ukraine, and I hope he goes back to original policy, which will give peace between Russia and Ukraine on a long-term basis. So the fact is that please understand the common link, and the common link is fighting the military-industrial complex that was pointed out by none other than General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Kennedy's predecessor as President of the United States, who was the leading commander
in the
of
Second
all
World War.
Allied forces in Europe, and who successfully invaded and succeeded in helping the Russians defeat the Germans. So that is a common link, and I think NewsX will probably be the first to report that link, And I would like to say it's a very important story you're covering. And please understand, there is a common link. And that common link is the need for certain people to keep war going, to keep weapons flowing, and to keep, of course, various other activities going. So I just want to say that is the point. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for taking our time speaking to NewsX. We will continue to track this very crucial development. Meanwhile, shifting focus up north to Jammu and Kashmir, the Union Territory is on high alert as 7 IEDs have been recovered within a week's